Hey guys, what is going on? And welcome back to another video on the channel. And today's just going to be our Game Week 36 review. And we're also just going to be looking ahead at the projected points for the last two game weeks. And now that we're in single game weeks only, the last two, it's time to look at some differentials if you need to climb the ranks, and also some players that you can buy to keep your rank for these last 2 weeks. So let's just go ahead and dive straight into it for this one. So this was my week just gone, and to be honest, this was probably my worst week of the season in terms of my decision making. I'm sure you all know what it's like to have a week like that, and I've just been massively bailed out in places. But this was the week that could have been, I think, for me. I could have got so much more here. And would have if I didn't make some silly decisions. So basically for me, this was a very last minute change to my team. Like most of you watching, I imagine you saw the news about Marmoush being benched and De Bruyne and Haaland starting, which really wasn't ideal because I was a dead set role. Rodgers would have played, and I wouldn't have bought De Bruyne or Wissa, so it would have been Marmoush and Rodgers. But Wissa had to come in for Marmoush because I didn't want a bench player, which I was fine with. Don't mind making that transfer. Still don't mind having Wissa, even though it's put me a transfer back because I was going to keep Marmoush to the end of the season. And because I did that and I knew De Bruyne was starting, to be honest, it was just a bit of a panic, and it was a poor transfer, Rodgers to De Bruyne, especially because I knew that I wanted Rodgers. I just had such faith. This is the only part of the game week that saved me, is that I didn't sell my Palace assets because I had such faith in them against Spurs. I just couldn't have sold either of them for De Bruyne, even though I had money to. Even though I knew they would do well this week, or I had confidence they would do well this week, but I knew they were going to create a problem for me down the line. And we will see that problem for this week and the last two, which is why I should have kept Rodgers. And I shouldn't have made any transfers, but if I was going to sell someone, it obviously looks like it should have been Sarr. But regretting the De Bruyne one, not least because he didn't return, but because it's also just messed with my transfer plans. Like, it's going to make it very difficult for me to get Saka or Palmer and sort the rest of my team out. So I was really quite frustrated with my decision making on that one. And then the other main one was the keeper. And I'm less frustrated about this because I was happy with my reasoning, but it was very close. And I think when you look at it with hindsight, I should have just played Verbruggen. It was like a 60-40, and I should have played Verbruggen because at the end of the day, Liverpool are better than Wolves, and that's that. You know, like, I know Arsenal have got a better defence, but Liverpool at home are so likely to score. And as good as Wolves have been, Brighton have been solid recently, and I don't think the clean sheet was likely, but it's obviously happened. And with Wolves, having nothing to play for, even though Liverpool have nothing to play for, Liverpool are still playing at home, and they're just obviously they're such a good team. They lost to Chelsea, they lost to us, so they wanted to bounce back. But it was a poor decision in hindsight. Ray has not done that much for me this season. I should have just gone for my differential for Bruggen, but I think I was still a bit burnt from playing him before when against Leicester, when he was the first keeper to let Leicester score a goal for like 12 weeks or however long it was. And then the rest of the bench I'm fine with. Like Dan Burn, I was never going to play Dan Burn. Like, being a Chelsea fan, I still think 11 points is ridiculous. Like, the assist wasn't a real assist, it was just he just laid it off, and then it was a good strike, or deflected strike, I think, from Guimaraes. And clean sheet I just didn't expect. Like, we had a man sent off, so you wouldn't usually expect a clean sheet. In such an important game like that, I expected us to score, and think we would have if we had 11 on the pitch. So those decisions I'm fine with, and obviously benching Evan Nilsson worked too. But yeah, just literally that Palace Spurs game, complete bailout. Eze has been fantastic for me the past few weeks. Could have been better if he didn't miss the pen that he had. I can't remember what game that was now, but he's just been so good, and I'm so glad I went with him over Mateta. It's probably been my best choice of the season so far, just in terms of keeping me afloat, because he saved my skin on so many occasions in these last few weeks. And anyone that went with Eze, I'm sure you're probably feeling that right now. And if you went Mateta, then, you know, I think you probably could deserve more. I certainly thought his minutes would be better, and I was worried about Mateta. So I think that's a swingy pick. And if you didn't go Eze and you just went Sarr, that's also just been harsh. I mean, I've also had Sarr, so I haven't got much from him. But if you went from one of the others, that's been harsh. And it's kind of the reason that I went for both, because I figured if you've got 3 Palace forwards and you pick both of the midfielders, there's a much higher chance of them being involved in a goal than one midfielder and one forward. I kind of figure if Mateta scored, it's going to be one of Sarr or Eze assisting him. So that was kind of my way of covering the Palace players, and I think it's worked quite well. But anyway, I took a -4, and I got 62 points overall. So that's -4 is 58, and you know, it was a green arrow. It was a green arrow by about 10k, but this could have been a green arrow by 50k. Honestly, it really could have, given how close I am to top 100. Like, even starting Verbruggen would have put me like 110k. Playing Rodgers and not that taking the -4, top 100k easy. So that's FPL though, isn't it? We make bad decisions, but at least I made a couple of good ones. But anyway, let's move on to the coming weeks, and this is game week 37, and I've got a list here of the midfielders and the forwards who are likely to score the most points, the most expected points for this week. I just want to go through 37 and 38 to just get an idea of who we could be buying, because I think at this point in the season you can buy for 1 week. Like for me, I still have my bench boost, so I'm trying to keep a good bench. I'm trying to keep every player I buy is important for me for game week 38. But if you're not on a bench boost, you can go out on you can afford to bench players. You can make some rogue picks now. Like, you can buy someone for 1 week. You can look at like a Trossard or a Martinelli or a Beto or a Vardy. Like, you don't have to look at a player for 6 weeks now. So this is why I want to look at the players like this, because I think this is a really good chance to do that. So for me this week, and we'll just start with the midfielders, I think Palmer is the best pick, and I think these expected points are absolutely correct. I think United at home is a fixture that we did well in last year. It's a fixture Palmer did well in. United are awful. They are awful. I expect us to create a lot of chances, and I expect Palmer to be involved in them. We don't have Jackson's. That does, contrary to what some people think, that he might then have more goal involvement. He doesn't. He creates so many chances, and you need someone like Jackson getting on the end of them. But I just think he's got that little bit of confidence he needed back from the Liverpool game. He's got that swagger. And if it wasn't for us going down to 10 men against Newcastle, I could have seen him being involved. So for me, he's the best midfielder to bring in this week, and he's captaincy material. I'd love to have him, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll sell De Bruyne and just get him, because why not, right? Like, I think he's a much better pick than this week. Salah, you could captain him, but I'm seeing pictures of him in Dubai with the rest of the Liverpool squad, and like, it's not filling me with hope. I'm kind of surprised that they're celebrating this early. Like, you know, fair play to them, but like, I just thought they'd wait a couple of games till the season's over. So I'm not too high on Salah at the moment. Like, he's like he does usually deliver, but he can be a captaincy, but I just wouldn't go there, I don't think, this week. Eze, it pains me, but he might have to go. He might have to go, or he might have to be benched, just because of the FA Cup final. And you can use the same logic for Sarr and Mateta. Like, he's going to start the FA Cup final. It's going to be a grueling game for them. I think Palace will do well, and I just don't know if he'll start on Tuesday. And at this point in the season, can you afford to have a player that might not be involved? I wouldn't buy him, and I debate selling him. I have him, and I love him, and I'm debating selling him. It's so unfortunate because Wolves at home is a good fixture, but I just don't know if you could take that risk. He's also got Liverpool in the final week, so it's not great. And Burmo, I think he's great this week. Fulham at home, I like this fixture. The reverse fixture was a bit boring, but Fulham were at home, and this Brentford team are playing a lot better now. So I really like Burmo, really like him for the last two, and I think he's captain material. He may well be my captain. Bowen, fantastic. Forest at home, it's a good fixture at this point. Forest aren't doing hot, you know. West Ham aren't great, but Bowen's on such a good run of form. I think he's a brilliant transfer in this week. I don't think the boat's been missed at all. Saka, I also think is a brilliant transfer this week. I think he could do well against Newcastle. And then you've got a Southampton fixture after. I think the other midfielders that I just mentioned, if you don't have those, Palmer and Burmo, Bowen, I think are better than Saka. Only because there's a very, very high chance that Arsenal will have acquired Champions League football by the Southampton game. I expect Saka to start it, but there's risk that he might not. Palmer will start both games, and Burmo will start both games. Bowen will start both games. So there is a little bit more risk there. But his ceiling is huge. Rashford's out. Asensio, I like this pick more now, but I also don't at the same time. Like, they've got injuries to key midfield players. Like, he will get more minutes, but this is a differential for sure. It is. But I think Emery said Rashford could be back by the last game. So is there any guarantee he starts the last game? I think I'd just go Rodgers. If you're chasing, I don't mind it, but we'll see that maybe there's some better ones for 38. I don't like De Bruyne now. I'm annoyed I've got him. I know he could do well against Bournemouth at home, but I don't like it. I just think this risk with his minutes, and this is why I didn't buy him before, so I would steer clear now. Fernandes, steer clear. United, concentrate on Europa League. And Rodgers, literally nothing bad to say about him. I'm annoyed at myself that I sold him. He's one of my favourite players this year, and I might buy him back. So I think he's a buy, I think he's a hold, I think he's a start. Spurs at home is a great fixture, and he's just so involved in everything they do. So just moving on to forwards. Watkins, I don't need to say too much about Ollie Watkins this week. I think he's a great pick. He's going to start both games, even though I said Rashford could come back. Watkins ain't missing out now. Someone else could, but he won't. Solanke, no. Jackson, banned. Visser, I still think is a fantastic pick for the last two games. Like, never mind the Ipswich fixture. Like, him and Burmo they're just such a good duo. And if this is their last season of playing together, because Burmo might leave, they're going to want to go out on a bang. And I expect these two to combine for some goals in the last two games. I think he's the best striker to buy still for the last two. Marmoush is avoid minutes. Mateta avoid minutes. Vardy is sensationalism. It's a good fixture. I don't mind it if you don't have any money. If you've got money, get Visser. If you've got Visser and you really need a forward, I think I'd look at one more forward, which we'll discuss in a minute, but Vardy's not a bad pick. He's also on pens. Isak, so boring, but he's a hold for me. I just think he can deliver. He's on pens. He's got 2 pens in the last 4 game weeks. And Everton at home is a decent fixture to end the season. Chris Wood, obviously don't mind it, but don't think you're buying him over anyone else with Chelsea at home in the last game. Cunha I love, but he's risky. They've got a good fixture against Palace, who are going to be resting players most likely. And I think their last fixture's not too bad too, but he's just a bit of a risk. The reason I went for Visser over him is just, he's leaving. He's got bad temperament. He's got Strand Larson on the bench. I just too many variables I don't like. Yeah, he's a good differential, but I think there's other differentials you could take whilst keeping a bit more consistency, you know. Like Beto. I actually like Beto. I think he's been consistent. He's gone under the radar a little bit. And I think he could be a good pick. They're going to want to go out on a bang at their last game at Goodison. So, you know, he's powerful, he's fast, he's a good striker. He really impressed me when I watched him against Liverpool a few weeks ago. So I think he could be a great pick. And yeah, moving into the final game week, because it's just important to consider players for the whole 2 weeks. And we'll just go through players that I haven't mentioned that might come up on here. And most of those players are going to look like Bournemouth players and Arsenal players. And for me, I know Bournemouth haven't looked great, but I think they are still in contention for a European spot. And I just think their team is so good. They're going to want to finish strong. Like, they're going to lose a few players this summer, but they've got it in them to put it together, even against Man City. So I love Semenyo and Cliver for the last fixture against Leicester. Even though I think they've both been benched recently, I expect them to both start in that last game. I just do. But maybe you can make more of a decision as a 1 week punt towards that game week. See who looked better against Man City. Other players that we haven't mentioned are Arsenal differentials. I really like Martinelli. He's not on this list, but I think he's the most nailed, especially with the potential of like Havertz coming back, and Marino will be back for that final game. I really like Martinelli as a differential, and he could be coming into my team too as a Saka replacement if you can't afford Saka. Obviously, other players that we've already mentioned. Bowen's got a great fixture. He's just never a bad buy. And Palmer, it's not the best fixture, but it could still be such an important game. Forwards, again, the only forward on this list that I think is worth discussing that wasn't on the previous list is Evan Nilsson, who's in my team. And again, I really like him because I do actually think he could do okay against City. And I think that because Bournemouth are they're such a fit team, they can cause anyone problems. Like, we've seen them go to St James's Park and rip Newcastle apart. Like, City are going to be a bit more tired. Like, yes, it's an important game for them, but Bournemouth can do damage, and you know, he's their number 9. And then they've got Leicester at home in the last game. Like, that's such a nice fixture, and I just think he's up there for a forward pick. But if you don't need to buy him this week, maybe it's just a last week pick for a one-off. In terms of a one-off striker for the last week, I don't think there's anyone better, because the only other fixtures that are really of note in the last week, I think, are West Ham, who've got Ipswich away, but again, that's an away fixture. And then Arsenal got Southampton away. So for me, I think any Bournemouth forward in that last week is going to be great, and will be captain material potentially in that last week. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. Just wanted to just give my thoughts on those players. And in terms of my team, just going back to my team, I think for me the transfer will either be Sarr to Rodgers, and bench Eze to bring in Evan Nilsson, which sucks, or I will take some sort of hit, and that hit will most likely be De Bruyne to either Saka or Palmer, and then I will also do Sarr to Rodgers. I don't see a world where I sell Isak for Watkins, but I think Rodgers comes in. A Palace asset needs to go because of my bench boost for the last week, and I just need to make my mind up about De Bruyne. But let me know what you guys think. If you guys got any thoughts, and if you guys got any questions, please do leave them below. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you on the next one.